The Top of the World, Climbing Mount Everest by Steve Jenkins. So as I read, I want you to think about what is the main idea of this book. You are going to see a lot of, we're going to call them photographs. They're not actual photographs. They're kind of more like art, but we're going to count them as photographs. So I'm going to read through where they have the headings and then below that. And then I will go over just quickly with some of the photographs and the captions and some of the diagrams as well. But mostly I just want to read through this and you are going to think about what is the main idea. So Mount Everest. Its summit is the highest point on Earth, 5.5 miles above sea level. For thousands of years, the mountain has been a sacred place for those who live in its shadow. The rest of the world, however, wasn't really aware of the mountain until about 180 years ago. Ever since that time, climbers, scientists, and adventurers have been fascinated by this peak. Many have tried to climb it. Some have succeeded, but many more have failed. Some have died trying. Mount Everest is a place of great beauty, adventure, and danger. If you ever want to climb it, here are a few things to think about. The roof of the world. Rising between India and China, the Himalayas are the highest mountain range on Earth. More than 1,500 miles long, the range includes many of the world's tallest peaks. The highest of them all, Mount Everest, stands on the border of Nepal and Tibet. Its summit is 29,028 feet above sea level. Nepal, a small country that borders India, is the home of the Sherpa people. Tibet is an ancient country that is now part of China. People in Nepal and Tibet think of Mount Everest as a holy place, full of power and mystery. Now we have this map over here that helps us see where Nepal is, because it's situated in between Nepal and, what did it say, and Tibet. So we can see that as well. And it also points to, we have a label that's pointing to Mount Everest. And on the bottom, it talks about continental drift. So there's a caption down there and shows how the Earth was a long, long time ago, about 40 million years old. So it was together in a continent called Pangaea, a supercontinent called Pangaea. And the drift, it's talking about plate tectonics, which is how earthquakes happen and how mountains are formed as well as separating as well. So that's what that diagram down there is. Next page. Flying in. Most expeditions to the Himalayas begin with a plane flight to Kathmandu, the capital of Nepal. Passengers' jets cruise at the same altitude as Mount Everest summit. I'm wondering why they have to fly in. Why can't they just walk in, do you think? Maybe because it's so hard to probably walk to that point, and so this is the easiest point to stop at. There's also a photograph, and it has measuring the mountain, so that was how they measured it. It's a super interesting story. And then namesake, how it was named, was down there by Sir George Everest. Kathmandu. When you arrive in the bustling capital city of Nepal, you'll collect your gear, meet your guides, and pay for your climbing permit. If you're lucky, you'll have time to pay a visit to the Monkey Temple, one of the many Buddhist religious sites in the city. Sherpas and other climbers often make offerings here before beginning an expedition. Kathmandu is also where you'll begin the long trek to Everest. How long do you think that trek is from Kathmandu all the way up to Everest? Or at least to the base camp. We will, as we read, you'll hear. The Sherpas. Since the first British adventurers came to Nepal, a group of native people known as Sherpas have worked with climbers as guides and partners. They are famous for their strength, climbing skill, and honesty. Sherpas are born and raised in the mountains, so they are accustomed to the altitude and can work well high on the mountain. We'll read a section about why the altitude will be an issue. Down on the bottom it says Land of the Yak. So that is a type of animal that they use to bring up their gear. First to the top. The British expedition of 1921 was the first organized attempt to climb Mount Everest. Sickness and exhaustion kept the climbers from reaching the top, but they did discover a route to the summit. Many attempts by climbers of different nationalities followed, but no one succeeded until May 29, 1953, when Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay reached the summit. Hillary was from New Zealand and Tenzing Norgay was a Sherpa from Nepal. Both men became international heroes. That's a photograph of both of them. Over there it says, because it's there. So that was one of the British climbers, George Mallory and Andrew Irvine, who did not make it to the top. Very interesting story on that. You can look that up. And then down here it says the greatest climber. And this is Reinhold Messner, who actually climbed Mount Everest without any additional oxygen. He's also a really good mountain climber and alpine climber as well. Look him up. He's really super awesome too. Packing for the trip. It takes a lot of special gear to climb Mount Everest. Here is some of the equipment you'll need. Ooh, look at all these different pictures. So they need an oxygen mask and tank, and then it describes what that is. Crampons. Ooh, what are crampons? Let's look. These sets of sharp metal spikes attached to your boots to give you secure footing on icy surfaces. That seems like that's really important. Ooh, ropes. Those look super important as well. Climbing suit. Glacier glasses. The sun is dangerously bright at high altitudes, especially when reflected by snow. So imagine if you looked at the sun directly. That's how bright it probably is. Even worse. So even minutes without eye protection can result in painful eye burns and make you temporarily snow-blinded. The trek. Ooh, here we go. What was our guess of how long it takes to actually get from Kathmandu all the way to the Everest Base Camp? It's a 100-mile trek or hike from Kathmandu to the base of Mount Everest. The trail leads through the lush forests, over roaring rivers, and finally into a cold, rugged landscape above the tree line. During the journey, the elevation rises from 5,000 feet to over 17,000 feet. And remember, Mount Everest is 29,028 feet, so you have 8,000 feet still to climb after that. Because there's a lot less oxygen in the air at high altitudes, many people begin to feel weak or ill as they get higher. The 3-week-long treks allows your body to adjust slowly to the lack of oxygen. So it takes about 3 weeks to get up there. So here we go, the mountain life. So this is a diagram, and it helps us understand what lives in certain elevations. So you'll realize as it goes up, and the temperature the temperature decreases as you go up in elevation. So you have less trees, it's kind of like the Rocky Mountains. They're nice and pointy at the top. So the snow line, so it's always below 32 degrees Fahrenheit, always there. Home away from home. Mount Everest, severe cold, high winds, and heavy snowfall make the climb possible only during a few weeks in the spring and late summer. During those times, as many as several hundred climbers, guides, doctors, Sherpas, cooks, and others live in base camp, a tent city at the foot of the mountain. Waiting here for your chance to climb the mountain helps your body to acclimate and get used to the lack of oxygen in the air. Now, there have been problems recently with there being lines to get to the summit. Look that up too. Those are some very interesting stories. There's so many people that want to climb it. There are lines, and that's a problem because we'll read why. The blessings of the gods, they talk about the Sherpas a little bit, and the world's highest dumping ground. So where does all the waste go? All the trash goes. The ice fall. Ooh, this is a good part. The most popular climbing route from base camp to the top of Everest, the South Summit route, passes through the Kubu Icefall. The icefall is created by the Kubu Glacier as it flows over a steep section of the mountain. Because the glacier moves 2 or 3 feet each day, the icefall is one of the most dangerous and frightening parts of the climb. You can actually hear the ice moving and make sounds. Deep cracks or crevasses are constantly opening and closing. Huge towers of ice called seracs can topple over without warning. You have to cross many sections of the icefall on shaky aluminum ladders placed by the Sherpas. You will see in a video what these look like, and if you would ever want to walk across these all the way into that blank opening, look on the picture, or the photograph helps you see it too. So rivers of ice That just talks about a glacier and how it's formed. Up and down. At 29,000 feet, there is only 1/3 as much oxygen as at sea level. In fact, if someone at sea level were suddenly transported to the top of Everest, he or she would die within a few minutes from the lack of oxygen. To prepare for the extremely thin air, you must make several round trips from base camp to higher and higher points on the mountain, sometimes spending the night before starting back down. Staying for increasing periods of time high on the mountain helps keep you from getting altitude sickness on summit day. So you'll see base camp is at 17,600 feet. You go through the Kubu Glacier, the ice fall. So there's Camp 1. So you would go up and then go down. Then the next day you go up to Camp 2, maybe stay at Camp 2, come down. Maybe go up to Camp 3, stay at 2 days, so a day, come back down. And then you have Camp 4, and then you have all the way to the summit. Avalanche! When snowfall builds up on a steep mountainside, a whole section of a slope may break loose suddenly and slide down the mountain, moving at speeds of up to 200 miles per hour. More climbers on Mount Everest are killed by avalanches than by anything else. So there's a diagram that shows you the unstable layers and how avalanches can happen. Hold on! Mount Everest is so tall that it's affected by the jet stream. What's that? Oh, it tells us. A narrow, fast-moving air current that circles the world 6 to 10 miles above sea level. So they're 5.5 miles above sea level. So it's pretty close. High winds on the mountain make climbing and surviving much more difficult. Blowing snow can make it difficult to see, and wind chill makes the low temperature feel even colder. The winds are so strong at times that climbers have actually been blown right off the mountain. So it talks about a snow plume down there, the clouds that are there, which is really hard to negotiate around there. Brr! The constant cold adds to the challenge of high altitude mountain climbing. At the top of Everest, typical high temperatures, these are high temperatures, in summer are around -20 degrees Fahrenheit. Nighttime temperatures of -100 degrees Fahrenheit are common. To make matters worse, when there's less oxygen available, it's much harder to stay warm. Well-insulated clothes are a matter of life or death on the mountain. Down there shows what happens when you get frostbite. So when your extremities, your hands, your feet, your nose, all those things do not get covered up well. The death zone. Above 26,000 feet, there is so little oxygen that climbers' bodies can't adapt. Anyone who remains at this elevation will get weaker and weaker and eventually die. That's why once they reach this altitude, climbers have to get to the summit within a day or two. If they don't, they must descend to a lower camp. So they talk about summit day down here. So it can take 12 hours from Camp 4 to get to the top. So they usually have to start at midnight. Ooh, here we go. We finally reached it. The summit! When you stand on top of Mount Everest, you are the highest thing on Earth. For most people, reaching this point is the reward for years of hard work and planning. You can't stay long, though. Your body needs oxygen, which means getting back to a lower altitude quickly. Because you're so exhausted, the descent is one of the most dangerous part of the climb, so you'll have to be very careful on your way down. They also will be using their bottle oxygen. And this one shows the 7 summits, the tallest mountains in each of the 7 continents. So Asia is where Everest is, and that's at 25,000 feet. Aconcagua, which is in South America, 22,835 feet. In North America, we have Denali, which is in Alaska, and that's 2,320. Africa has Kilimanjaro. Europe has Elbrus, which is in the Alps. Antarctica has Vinson, and Australia/Oceania has Deja. Sorry, Miss Barks doesn't know how to pronounce that one, I'm sorry. 16,022 feet. So, what is the main idea of this book? What is it mostly about? Think about the title, think about the headings, repeated words. So, what was this about? So tomorrow you're going to come in and know and be ready to say, what is the main idea of this book?